Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and once again we're out here in the garage for the usual nightly garage gun talk. And it looks like we had a lot of breaking news regarding the whole CEO of United Health story, because it turns out, I guess, they caught the guy, and we're going to be getting a lot of information. And I still cannot believe that the one video that I made went as viral as it did. It looks like I did get a few things right in my speculation, and I got a few things wrong, but I was just speculating based off of the information we had. And also, I was just out here in the garage talking to my phone, essentially, and usually conversing with the 500 people that usually watch my videos. So that's all it was. It was just me wanting to chat with those people, and things got out of control, and the video went viral, and it was huge, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, but I was under no belief that some type of momentum would last forever, and I just had a little bit of fun with it. I still have all the comments to respond to, and I do find it funny that the people are commenting on the video currently, telling me how wrong I am and how I don't know anything. And essentially, they're the same people. In fact, I did some searches through the comments. They're the same people that were apparently yesterday experts on suppressor boosters and subsonic ammunition and semi-automatic pistols, which I found absolutely fascinating because I review suppressors and I use subsonic ammunition all the time, and they cycle just fine in semi-automatic firearms. And I really do need to make a video kind of busting that myth, and I've actually added that to my list of videos I need to make. And oh my gosh, my list is so big right now, but maybe I'll do that to bust the myth, because a commenter had a great observation, and they were mentioning that what makes a round subsonic often is not the powder behind the projectile, but rather the weight of the projectile. So if you're shooting 9mm and you're shooting 115 grain, that's going to be going down range at supersonic velocities. But you increase that to 147 grain and still use essentially close to the same amount of powder, you're now at just below subsonic velocities. And what really changed was the projectile weight, not necessarily the loading. Now, of course, there's some give and play in all of that, but typically that's the way that it goes. You see a lot of that in 300 Blackout as well. So I do need to make a video about that. But it looks like my analysis of the gun that was used was pretty close. I mean, I couldn't tell that it was a 3D printed gun, which I guess based off of the stories, that's what we're hearing it is. But it was a standard semi-automatic handgun in some ways. We don't know what the suppressor was, okay? So we just don't have enough information, and I really hope that they're going to release it, or at least have pictures that come out. The one thing about the story that's kind of surprising, that makes me scratch my head, is they said it was a 3D printed pistol. However, as far as I know, I don't think there are any viable produced, or I guess when it comes to the programming, a semi-automatic pistol where the slide reciprocates. I do know that a long time ago, there was that one company that had the, what was it called? The Liberty pistol or the Liberator pistol or something like that. It was like it used like a nail as the firing pin. Somebody can tell me in the comment section what that was. You guys probably remember it was like the first real big 3D printed case. But essentially it was like a single shot, because when you 3D print a firearm, you have to have something that's going to contain the explosive power of the cartridge. And, once you start moving up beyond 22 long rifle, you start getting into pressures that in a 3D printed gun, even if it is, printed with quality material, it can be a little bit dangerous, because the tolerances of a gun, people don't appreciate the machining that goes into a gun. Because if you're off by even the slightest amount, or there's a burr somewhere in the slide rail or whatever, the gun is not going to operate. People do not appreciate, even when it comes to cheap guns. And I guess I have to hand it to Kel-Tec because I always rag on Kel-Tec. because I've had their guns literally fall apart on the range, but I haven't had one necessarily blow up, and they have like worked, I guess, to some degree. So I have to hand it to them. So even their super cheap guns are machined well enough, but people don't understand a slight deviation and issue with the dimensions of a firearm can really cause catastrophic failures or for the gun simply to seize up and freeze. So I'm really curious. They say it was a 3D printed gun, but I'm really wondering if it was one of those polymer 80 type of things where it was something that was not 3D printed, but maybe I guess what the media erroneously tries to scare people by calling them ghost guns, unserialized guns, or some type of homemade gun is what I think it is. But we'll just have to see. Same thing goes with the suppressor, because you can't just 3D print a suppressor using basic at-home technology. Now, I have mentioned there are suppressors out there made by, reputable manufacturers that are 3D printed, like this. In fact, I have the workbench set up to record tomorrow the garage portion of the CGS suppressor's Hyperion K. And this is a 3D printed suppressor, but obviously a company like CGS Suppressors is investing, I'm assuming, hundreds of thousands of dollars in quality equipment that can 3D print with titanium. Most people at home don't have that type of machine. Their 3D printing technology is the ones that are made with that polymer or plastic, and it's not that good. But most people are not going to have a 3D printer at home that can do titanium, which is what we have. And I don't really think it's 3D printing in the same sense. I want to say it's done with lasers, because the lasers have to heat and melt up the metal. But anyway, if it really is a 3D printed firearm that was done at home, I have to see what this is, because I can't imagine that it would work, because you need metal rails, you need a barrel that can contain the pressure, a breech that can contain the pressure. I have to find out more about this, but I did get it right in my video. It was not the well rod or the B&T Station 6. So I'm happy about that, because I knew that. But then when it comes to the guy's motivations, right now things are not as clear. I guess he had some type of like left-wing manifesto where he's going against corporations and so forth. And it looks like he was an American citizen that was not a professional. But, I was just going off by the information that we saw. That was it, just having a little conversation. So I think I got some stuff right, some stuff wrong. But as I said, a lot of people are trying to rake me over the coals. But when I go back and look at their comments, they were telling me, it's a Station 6. That's what the police say. And they were completely wrong, too. So we were just having some fun and talking about it. I have a feeling that this is going to be some event that they're going to write books about or base stories and movies on, because it's fascinating. And the whole sensationalist aspects of this story, both from the firearm aspect to the political ramifications of a CEO of a healthcare company, to the mystery, all that kind of stuff. It was like something out of a movie, and I think that's what drew people to this story and will continue to draw people to this story for a long time. So that's all I wanted to say on that. I also wanted to talk about the Safety Sallies. I was very surprised by the number of people in my videos, the 3 or so that I made about that topic, and the people that found my channel. I had quite a number of people say they got scared watching my video, that they almost like ducked for cover, because in those videos I pointed a gun at the camera. Oh my God. Now they're saying that I'm being unsafe. Well, let's talk about gun safety, okay? So, gun safety. First thing, treat all guns like they're loaded. Now, there is an exception to that rule, just like I before E except after C in English, and then there's all the words that don't conform to that rule. Well, is this gun loaded? Well, you don't know. But does it really matter? Because you're not in the room with me. In fact, I'm filming this on a Monday night. What is it, the 9th, I think? December the 9th? I think it's December the 9th. 9th or 10th. At 9:13 p.m. at night, Central Standard Time in Frisco, Texas. That's what I'm doing. So unless you're here, you're safe. This if this was loaded and a round was coming out of this barrel, it's not going to transcend time or space. It's not going to come hurt you. However, how do you know this gun is loaded? Well, you don't, but I do. You want to know how? Because before I turned on the camera, I safety checked the gun. And I am the only person in this garage. That's it. I'm by myself. So I know this gun is unloaded, and I never have any ammunition out here when I film. So even though I will check the firearm occasionally, I know this gun is safe. Now, as I said, there are exceptions to the rule. Often when you are disassembling a gun, you can't necessarily treat it like it's loaded. Because, for example, if you have a Glock, a lot of people own Glocks. Well, if you have to treat a gun like it's loaded, you can never pull the trigger, even if you've visually inspected the chamber. Well, guess what you have to do to disassemble a Glock? That's right. You have to pull the trigger. Therefore, there's an exception to the first rule of gun safety. Now, in normal day-to-day activities, if there was somebody else here, the rules change. But it's just me in my garage by myself, and it's been that way now for 15 to 20 minutes out here, and my eyes have not left this gun, and nobody's here. So I know this gun is unloaded. So I can point it now at things I don't intend to kill or destroy. Now, I can't hurt you because you're not here. But let's go over the other rules of gun safety. Finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Well, that's what I've been doing. You might have noticed when I pointed the gun at the camera, my finger was off the trigger. So I was following that rule. However, like I mentioned before, there's an exception to that rule. You might need to pull the trigger because you're doing work on this gun. You might need to lower the hammer or disassemble a Glock. You have to pull the trigger. So you might need to pull it. But, of course, you have to make sure the gun is unloaded. So, once again, there is a rule to gun safety that you have to break occasionally. There is an exception to that rule. Now, pointing the gun, or the rule is don't point the gun at something you don't intend to kill or destroy. Well, I'm out here in my garage by myself. So there's nobody here to kill because I don't want to kill anybody, and there's nobody behind the camera. In fact, behind my phone is a paper towel roll. Literally, it's a paper towel roll on my messy workbench. That's it. I mean, man, if I turn this thing around, you'd be like, oh, good God, he has to organize that garage. And yes, I do. And that's one of the projects for later this month. But even if the gun is sitting here, okay, let's just say I don't want to destroy my phone or the paper towel roll or the rest of the stuff on my workbench. Well, what am I supposed to do with the gun? Because if it's just sitting here right now, the barrel is pointed down my workbench, and it's pointed at actually another gun that I need to clean, and some foam that I'm using to build a case out of or put into a gun case. And I have some gardening stuff and some tools and a speaker. But I'm not touching it right now, so I better turn it, right? Uh-oh. Now the gun is pointed towards the camera and some gun cleaning supplies and a trash can that I have on my workbench. Uh-oh, I can't have that. I don't want to destroy any of that. Oh, so I better do this. Oh no, now the gun's pointed at the ceiling. I definitely don't want to shoot the ceiling. I mean, I don't want a hole in my ceiling, so I better point it this way. Oh no, now it's pointed towards the ground, and right now it's December, and I have some heaters down here that kind of warm my feet. Oh, I don't want to shoot that. Okay, I'm going to put it this way then. Now I'm pointing it at my car. There's nothing in this garage I don't want to not shoot. I don't want to shoot. So there's no real safe direction. So that whole rule of don't point it has a lot of exceptions. Out here, of course, I said the gun is safe. No magazine. I've already visually inspected the chamber. We're good to go. Now, am I going to point it at me ever? No. Because that is, of course, just a good habit, okay? Even though I know the gun is unloaded. But there is nothing I can do in this garage that I'm not pointing the gun at something that I really don't want to shoot or destroy. But I have no choice because I can't point it at nothing, okay? And then finally, the last rule of gun safety is know your target and what lies beyond. And that's pretty much irrelevant here in this situation. So I follow the rules of gun safety, but I don't have to show you that I do because you are not in this garage. You are not here. I am not endangering your life. I'm not endangering the lives of others. I am not pointing this gun at myself. I'm not pointing it, well, I can't, not point it at anything I don't wish to destroy because the whole garage is something that I care about, right? But I have safety checked this gun. I don't have to prove it to you or show it to you. You know, the people that get this way are the same people that way back, I want to say it was, I remember when I was in high school, one of the classes I really enjoyed was the history of film. And I remember watching a lot of classic films. I remember I watched Citizen Kane, which was eye-opening, masterpiece. We've hopefully all seen Citizen Kane. But one of the movies that we were shown was, I think it was from 1917. Anyway, it was really early. It was called The Great Train Robbery. And, of course, it was a silent film. And at the end, there was something very controversial at the time. At the very end of the movie, one of the actors points what was obviously like a single action revolver, probably a Colt of some kind. He points it at the camera and fires. Now, obviously, it was shooting a blank, and it was so controversial at the time because people in the movie theater went like that. I mean, we laugh at that today based off of the movies that we see and the stuff that, we have in our current entertainment because we know, excuse me, we know that it's a movie, it's a television. We're able to suspend disbelief, right? But I don't know. It's weird to me that people duck and cover because I do this. You're safe. Now, if this was real life, yeah, I'd have a problem with that. If there was somebody else in this room, I would not be doing this with this firearm. But I'm here by myself. So, stop being a safety Sally. And I do not have to show you the firearm is clear. I do that before I film. So, if the video is going up, you know that I survived because I have to film this and then go upload it and do all the other stuff involved. So, if the video's up, I'm okay. All right. So that's the other thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to speaking about pulling the trigger. I wanted to pull the trigger. I always store my guns with the hammers down just to take the tension off the hammer springs. But that's just me. You don't have to do that. All right. I think I covered everything I wanted to talk about tonight. See, what else? Oh, yeah. So at this point in the video, I'm just going to give you the word of the day. And the word of the day is print. Because it looks like the pistol that was used in this assassination in New York was a 3D printed fire. Or so the police are saying. So we don't know for sure. But that's what they're saying. Okay, so that's the information we have. So if you want to turn away at this point, you've made it to the end. But we're going to get into something real geeky here that maybe not a lot of you are interested in, and that's totally fine, okay? So I just try to be a good content creator and give you a fair warning. So as I said, if you don't want to talk about what we're about to talk about, which is watches, feel free to leave. You're not going to hurt my feelings, and the word of the day is print. Okay, so let's talk about watches. Something, and it was not intentional on my part, because I wear different watches every day. And I like to think I have a decent collection. And I obviously noticed that a lot of people, based off of their comments on my video, are also watch people. So they kept asking me, what is that? Or that's a nice, what it was. And I was like, thank you so much. And then a few people asked me, because I noticed in different videos, I wore a different watch. And would I show some of my watches? And I said, okay, I'll do that. So I have a little bit of my watch collection now. And I have to thank my friend Richard, who has lent guns to the channel, for getting me into this. And it's honestly sparked a fascination with something that I always had. I am not somebody that has ever cared about fashion. I mean, this shirt right here, I probably bought at Walmart 15 years ago. Like, my wife makes fun of me all the time. So, I'm an INTJ on the Myers-Briggs Personality Type Indicator, and I remember when I learned about that, one of the personality traits is when it comes to clothing, as long as it meets the basics of decency and warmth, you don't care about fashion and all that. And that's totally true. I mean, I wear the cheapest shoes, the cheapest clothes. I don't care about fashion. And when I have to buy new shoes, I am in and out of the shoe store. I literally buy the same model I have. And like, I just go there and pick up, go. I don't care about any of that. But when it comes to certain things like watches, I guess it's for the same reason I love guns, for the mechanical aspect. I love watches for the same exact thing. And I love classic cars. One of the memories of my youth that I will always cherish, is restoring a 1969 Camaro with my father. And yes, my father is still around. He is healthy and awesome, and I talk to him all the time. And we still have the Camaro, and it looks great. And but honestly, that car is so precious to me that it goes beyond any type of monetary value. But I love everything mechanical: cars, guns, and watches. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of like you have the macro, a big machine. You have kind of a smaller gun, a smaller machine and a gun, and then you have the micro, the nano, which is watches. So anyway, I have a few of my watches out here. This is not everything, so people wanted to know. So I kind of thought we would start with some of my more entry-level watches, I guess we would say, if you're into watches, because I do have some high-end watches. My wife is also really into watches, and her watch collection is pretty sweet too. She has a couple things from a couple companies that I want to get. Like, she has a really nice Tag Heuer, great, beautiful watch. But anyway, we have some high-end stuff, but not everything I wear has to be high-end. I just appreciate what it is, the mechanics, the looks. And I don't need to be wearing, a $10,000 watch every day. So I kind of thought I would start with the kind of lower end, I guess. We'll say entry level stuff, and see what you guys think. I think in the past I've kind of shown some of these to people on the channel. We'll start with, I won't go into the watch mods right now, but we'll start with like basic stuff from companies. So here is my, I have a Seiko automatic diver's watch here. I think some people call this the Turtle. And the thing I love about this is the colorway. I'm a big fan of that blue and the green. It's a little bit big for me. I would say it's probably about 42 millimeter, maybe 43 millimeter. But it wears pretty good. It's not too thick. The bezel's on it real nice. It turns really well, but I love the look of this watch. And I want to say this is probably in the $200 range. And honestly, I think it's a fantastic value. Fantastic value. I think it looks good. The bracelet on it is also really nice. It's very comfortable. And I will tell you, I am bracelet, band, and strap sensitive. If it's too sharp, the wrong size. Like, one of the things I don't like about Breitling watches, very high-end watches, they typically use 22 millimeter bracelets, and they're just too thick. But yep, my Seiko, I think they call this the Prospects Divers. I don't know. It has a day and date complication, but I think the case is called the Turtle. Then one of my favorite companies, and this is going to be a step up, is Steinhardt. Now, I discovered Steinhardt because I was looking at a watch retailer called Noman Watches, and they sell a lot of brands. And one of them was Steinhardt, and what drew me to it was they take the Rolex, I would say the spirit and the mystique of it, but they don't copy it, but it kind of, like I said, if you you squint your eyes, it kind of looks like it, but then you realize that they have their own style and you kind of like it. So for me, it looks like older watches and older style watches, but you can tell they're new manufacturer and different design. I like them. And these typically are going to be, the watches I'm going to show you here are typically in the $500 to $600 range. That's usually what it is. This next one gets a ton of wrist time. This is the Steinhart Ocean One GMT, and it uses the, what some people call the Batman colorway, so the black and blue. It looks like a kind of like a GMT from Rolex, but you can see it says Steinhart on there. And this is a 41 millimeter, so it's bigger than the typical, GMTs. The bezel on it is really nice, ceramic bezel. This thing is a fantastic watch. There it is from the side. Steinhart does a good job with the, of course, it's not going to show right now, probably. There it goes. You can see the crown. It's just a nice watch. They just do a good job. And this has been a fantastic timepiece. They're all Swiss movements. And, this thing keeps great time. Great time. I would say 1 or 2 seconds a day, is what it's going to lose, which is really good. But yeah, it's just been a fantastic watch, and the bracelet on it is really nice. It's an oyster style bracelet, which I prefer. Some people like the Jubilee, but I like the oyster. It feels a little bit more masculine to me, but not all the bracelets I have are oysters. Some other Steinhart watches I have. These are limited edition ones. Now, I told you I was watch or strap sensitive. These came with bands. And the bands were of like a nylon material, and I did not like them because I guess I got a weird shaped wrist. They kind of sat a little bit too high, and they were not flexible enough. So I changed this one, and this is the Ocean One Diver's Watch. This one has a titanium case, and it has a really cool dial in it. So it's like 1980s camo. So you can kind of see the markers in there. They kind of looks like Rolex, as I said, but this is a 41 millimeter. It's kind of a big watch. Titanium case, has a date on it, date complication. I am typically not a fan of gold watches and gold, but I can handle the gold accents. And so that's what it is right there. I think it's a fantastic looking watch. And I changed it over to a NATO band, and I went with a camo to kind of match the dial. So it sits a little bit high on the wrist, but I absolutely love this watch. I don't wear it as often. And also, if you look at the bezel of it, you can see like it has like this texture to it. It's like a slate or marble or granite. It's really, really a cool bezel. And these are limited edition. I want to say this is one of 200. And then the other one is another GMT, but it's like their military GMT, one of 200 titanium case, kind of from the same collection. A little bit smaller. This one just has a basic green dial. And this is the one I was wearing today, and I changed the band to a rubber one. And it has some gold accents here. So I went with this type of, what would we call this? I guess in the Rolex world they call it the Oyster Flex, but it's not really. It's just a rubber thing, but it's really nice, and I wear this one a lot. It's not as big. It's not as noticeable. It's very subdued. People will not notice it, but I really like it, and green is my favorite color. So I really like that. Kind of has that military look. So there's that one. All right, so now we're gonna amp it up here a little bit. Now I do prefer mechanical watches over quartz. But I know some people really like the quartz stuff, and I'll show you one of my higher end quartzes. This is the Bulova Lunar Pilot. And this is kind of a reissue of a watch that Bulova designed back in the early 70s. And the history of this watch is that the design was intended for space, and they were able to kind of sneak one on Apollo 15. And they're glad that they did, because the Omega Speedmaster Professional that they were supposed to use, the crystal fell out. So it was not usable. And luckily, one of these Bulivas was on it. Now, the original Bulivas were the Lunar Pilot. It was a prototype. It was mechanical. This is a high-precision quartz movement. And it only loses, I want to say, like 3 seconds a year. Like, it's like super, super accurate. And it also has a meteorite dial. So the dial in there is made from meteorite. This is a limited production piece, one of 5,000. It is a chronograph. And so if I can push the top there, you can see we're chugging along. For the first 30 seconds, this is going to continue to spin, and that will give you your, hundredth of a second. But when it hits 30 seconds, it will stop, but it's still calculating that. So when you push the pusher again, it will go to where it's supposed to be. So you'll see here at 30 seconds, that will stop. Now, the second hand will still continue counting, but then when I push the pusher, you'll see that subdial, boop, it will go to where it was. So it does keep a track of that. And then, of course, it will reset. But this is supposed to be the same size as the original. There was only one of the original, and it sold at auction because it wasn't government property for like $1 million. It was like one of the most expensive watches at auction ever. The one that was worn on the moon. And so they just reissued this, and they sell it with a bunch of different colorways, but this is the most expensive one with that meteorite dial. So it's the Lunar Pilot with a meteorite dial. I changed the band. They had a leather strap. It just did not work well for me. So I went with a NATO nylon band, which to me kind of gives it that worn on the moon appearance. If you kind of look at like how they attach it to the spacesuits, it kind of looks like that. I know, I'm a total nerd and geek. All right, so let's amp it up another one. Oh, by the way, this is probably, I think the MSRP in this is like $1,400. So that's a $1,400 watch. All right, so let's amp it up again. Now, this next one, honestly, is one of my favorites. One of my favorites. I wear this, and I probably get more compliments in public from people with this watch than any other watch. And this is the Hamilton Jazzmaster Chrono, okay? And that is just a beautiful watch. And Hamilton is a Swiss company owned by Swatch. And some people will mistakenly think this is a Rolex Daytona. The subdials kind of look like this, but the pushers look completely different. And this originally came on a bracelet. And, excuse me. And the bracelet was super uncomfortable. It had sharp edges. So that bracelet went off. I was like, okay, I'm taking that thing off. And I went with another NATO strap. I love NATO straps. I just like them. I like the way they feel on my wrist. And I went with this kind of red, white, and blue color on it because it's kind of a racing watch. And man, does this watch stand out? And people have complimented me. I've been going some place and people go, wow, that is just one attractive watch, mainly because of the NATO strap that I put on it. And this is a mechanical chronograph watch. This is about a $2,000, $2,200 watch right here. And it definitely looks great. I mean, this is just one of my favorites. This thing is just fantastic. It might be a little bit on the thick side. Okay. That's probably the biggest complaint I have of it. And it does have an exhibition case back, but you really can't see it because I have the NATO strap on it. All right, so let's amp it up again. And this is probably my favorite. Now we're going to get into the higher end, I guess what we call luxury brands. And this one, honestly, is my favorite, even though it's probably, well, okay, I'm not going to say it's my favorite. It's the one that gets the most wrist time because it wears so freaking well. And this is the Tudor Black Bay 58. And this is Tudor's, I guess, homage to one of their early diving watches from 1958. And, of course, Tudor is kind of the sister company of Rolex. So Rolex, or the company that owns Rolex, or what is it? No, it's not an LLC. It's like a nonprofit that owns Rolex, also owns Tudor. They were founded by the same person. And so this has more of a vintage look. So it doesn't have, crown guards on it. It has an aluminum bezel. The pip looks really cool with that little red triangle. But yeah, essentially you have this, the snowflake hand, so you have a lot of the Tudor styling. It is on an oyster style band. Some people don't like the rivet look that this one has, but I kind of do. But yeah, so this is the Tudor Black Bay 58, and it's a 39 millimeter. And when I was buying this, I bought it from a place in Frisco called Noah's Fine Watches and Jewelry, and those people are amazing. Is the salesman there, Adrian? I was looking at a bigger one. I was looking at the 41. He goes, no, you got to put on the 39. It's the perfect size. And when I put on the 39, it was like, yep, that was it. I mean, that is the perfect size. So love that one. All right. So now let's amp it up again. And I have more in here, but they're more like, mod watches and things. Like, I love all watches, okay? Like, for example, I have a Seiko. Some people call this the Saytona. This is a quartz, solar-powered Seiko. What is the name? What is this one? This is the, I forgot what they call this one. But anyway, kind of a cool one. This is a limited production one with the dial and the bezel and the bracelets. It's a combo. It's pretty nice. I like that one. One of my first watches, which I've actually had for a while, is this one here. It's a Citizen right here. And I love Star Wars. And this is actually one of their Star Wars collection ones. This one kind of has, this one's a Yoda theme. But you can look at that dial. You can actually see Yoda's outline in there. I like this one too. This was also solar powered. My wife bought this for me for Christmas a couple of years ago. I do need to put it out in the sun because I can see that it's on the power saving mode. But yeah, just a little bit of sun action and it's up and running. And then I also like mod watches, like Seikos. Like these are fun if you're just wearing around the house. You don't want to worry about it. So this is a Seiko GMT. It's a custom watch. And it kind of has the GMT Bruce Wayne colorway, the black and gray. And these are actually really good. Some of these, I think it's the NH34 movement in this. It keeps really good time. And this is on a Jubilee bracelet. So I try to vary that. But when I just don't care, if I'm just, around the house, I don't need to wear something expensive, these will sometimes make it on the wrist. So I got stuff like that. All right. So now let's get to the higher end stuff, the highest end stuff. I know this video is getting long, but I warned people. All right. So now, next level. Speaking of the Bulova Lunar Pilot, let's take a look at the watch that was certified for NASA spaceflight, the Omega Speedmaster Professional. And this is the Hesalite version. There's two versions of this watch. There's what they call the Sapphire Sandwich, which has a sapphire crystal on the front and an exhibition case on the back. This is the Hesalite version, which is a mineral crystal. And the reason this was certified by NASA for spaceflight, this is the first watch worn on the moon. So all the astronauts had one of these. You can see pictures of Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong with them and all that. Is they did not want a glass crystal because if it breaks, you're going to have glass shattering in zero gravity. But a mineral crystal will not do that. And on the back of this, you have the closed back on this, but you do have all of the information, the first watch worn on the moon, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this bracelet. I kind of wish it was a oyster-style bracelet, but it works. And this one's really nice, and I'm always amazed with how thin this is. And when you wear it, you're like, yeah. Another great thing about Hesalite crystals is if you scratch it or whatever, you could actually buff it out with like something called Polywatch, which is really cool. And you can get that crystal looking brand spanking new. The next one is a sentimental watch because it was the first Rolex. I always wanted a Rolex when I was younger, speaking of mechanics and things. And this is the one that I saved up for and was really excited to get. And this is the one that everybody saw in that first video. This is my Rolex Explorer 2 with the polar white dial. And so this is a Rolex that's still in production. This was from 2016. And this one will always probably be my favorite. And it wears so well. It's a 42 millimeter, but it does not wear like a 42 millimeter. It has a GMT movement, but a lot of people don't know that this is not supposed to be worn as a GMT. So the 24-hour hand doesn't follow GMT time or another time zone. You can run it that way, but this bezel doesn't turn. This is designed for cave exploration or the Arctic, where you might not know if it's AM or PM. So even though the watch isn't running right now, I haven't wound it. It is set in correspondence with the AM PM. So it's a 24 hour. So when it's, let's just say it's 6 o'clock in the morning, the 24-hour hand is going to be over at the 6 o'clock or the 6th position, where a GMT, like my Steinhardt over here, the 24-hour hand is set to a GMT time. Okay, now of course it's not set right now. I just moved it now. I haven't wound this in a while, so the time isn't right. But the GMT hand is corresponding to GMT time, and then of course you can move the bezel. But this one is designed to show you 24 hours in relation to the time. So if you're in a cave or, in the Arctic or whatever, and you need to know if it's, AM or PM, that's how you would do it. That's the intention. You don't have to do it that way, but that's the way that one is set. And then the last one I have is a watch that my wife and I jokingly say we have joint custody of. We were, I'll be honest with you, in order to celebrate the election of Donald Trump, this is the watch we bought ourselves. Yes, we bought it for both of us. And this is the Rolex, in fact, this is a 2024 Rolex Submariner no date with the black bezel. And this watch, when we got it last month, was only a month old. Yeah, so that's a pretty awesome, the most expensive watch that's in the collection right now. And the reason my wife and I both got it is when my wife got into watches, she liked all the girly, daintily stuff. In fact, she has a really nice Omega Constellation, way too small for her, but she likes the little and tiny pink. And then she messaged me one day and goes, I can't read my watch. I'm like, what do you mean? You get old. Well, my wife's not old, by the way, but you get older. Sometimes I'll wear glasses. She's like, I can't read it. I'm like, I know, it's too small. So she's gotten into bigger and bigger watches. And now she loves this Submariner. And the reason we got it is because it is set up where when it's set up like it is, because Rolex has a new way of adjusting the clasp. So right now I could put this on and it fits my hand perfectly. I can take this off and I can move the adjustment on it. I can close it all the way. It takes out approximately what would be 2 links, and now my wife can wear it, and it fits her perfectly. So without having to adjust any links, we both can wear it, and that's kind of the new design from Rolex. So this is our newest one. I'm also on a wait list for a couple of others, and always looking for new stuff. So anyway, that's where the collection currently stands. And if you're interested, if I get anything new, which hopefully I will in the next month or so, I will. I'll update you if you're interested. So anyway, yeah, the Rolex Submariner, classic, man. All right. So anyway, that's it. As you can see, I love tool watches, not necessarily dress watches. So anyway, that is the video people requested. So thanks for watching to the end if you made it through 43 minutes. So that's it for me. Thanks for joining me here in the garage. And, as always, let me know if you have any questions. And thanks for watching.